Walking in the house in my road, gotta make her put it on. She don't like wearing clothes, just left Concord, North Carolina. I was licking on booty and a whole lot of vagina. Eat a pizza with some ice cream, she'll remember you. Ice Cube, make it chip like the winter do.
See me with the crew, I gotta get some food. I see you looking like you do. Had to make a move, make a move.
Started. Please don't get me started. Started. Please don't.
What up, y'all? State Almighty, aka the Global Dark Skin Ambassador, with a hood story / story time for y'all. Now, this story happened this story happened 2019, 2020, when I first moved to South Carolina, right? And this is a story about how I was under the impression that a white man was trying to kidnap my son. Okay, now me being in South Carolina, living extensively for the first time, and me being from New York City, it's a certain type of interaction that black and white people have when you come from where I'm from. And it's a different, and I would say a more productive and more positive interaction that, black and white people have in South Carolina. For one, it's easier to get around, the snow bunnies, and they're way more comfortable around black men because a lot more times we're their next door neighbors. A lot more times they went to school around black men, so they're more comfortable and more TD and more freaky diggy, right? And just overall, it's more interactions that white people and black people have in South Carolina that's different from how it was when I was living in the Bronx. Now, I'm not a racist. I'm somebody who knows how to code switch. I know how to blend in all different types of situations. I know how to dress a certain way and behave a certain way when I'm around different types of people, just so I make sure that black men, black fathers, and black people, period, are represented as having a certain level of decorum, because we already know the stereotypes that people who are not us have about us until they get to know us. That's just minor details of why I could have been wrong for thinking that this white man was trying to kidnap my son, but I still feel like he probably was trying to kidnap my son. And the reason why is two more reasons. One other reason is, y'all know the things that go on in this world, Y'all know about, how kids end up missing and kidnapping and black market and, adrenochrome and all this other different type of alleged stuff that could be happening, probably happening, is probably happening in some type of way or fashion. Maybe it's a little bit more blown up than what's really going on, but you know what I'm saying? So that's another reason. And then the third reason is, when my son was a little bit younger, maybe been 5-6 years old, I remember being extremely high and riding the train with my son, right? Riding the train with my son, and I remember he was on the tablet or my phone or something like that. And I remember we had to take a significant, probably like a 40-minute to an hour-long ride on the train, right? So I remember just being extremely high and falling asleep. And I remember reaching my stop, and you from New York City, you reach your stop, You'll hear the doors open. You'll hear the automated system announce your stop. I remember just getting up and walking out the train. And I remember right before the door closed, I realized that I was missing something. And I looked, and there's my son, not realizing what's going on. He on the phone, and the door's about to close. And I rushed on the train to grab my son and grab him off the train. I almost lost my son that day. And the hell I would have went through. The embarrassment I would have went through in the hell from like people like my mother and my son's mother. They would have never forgave me for that, you know. I'm not a perfect father. I've made some mistakes, you know, especially with my oldest son, who I'm talking about, you know. And I kind of have like a PTSD about that, you know, like a PTSD about that. But now moving on to the story, right? So it's hurricane season, right? We're not in the middle of a hurricane, but the rain is starting to pick up. For whatever reason, I don't know why. I might have been in the park. I think I was in the park. Working out or something like that. And I had my son with me. And then the rain just started kind of like coming. Like the skies was gray already, but I still wanted to be outside. I don't specifically, I think I was in the park. But anyways, the park is not that far from where my mother's house is. I was still living in my mother's house at the time, right? The park ain't that far from my mother's house, but I would say it's 1,200 steps, something like that. 1,500 steps. Not a whole mile. It's walking distance still. You know what I'm saying? It's walking distance. Now, the rain is picking up. The wind is picking up. I'm walking. My son is walking a couple feet ahead of me because like he knows where we're going. And he also knows how to cross the street on his own. Plus, you know, like I'm with him. But he's walking a significant amount of feet ahead of me, but not too far, but far enough to where if a car with a person who wanted to kidnap a child see my child, they'd be able to pull up, stop, drag my son in the car, and drive off without me being able to catch up to them. Mind you. So we get closer to my mother's house. I can see my mother's house coming up. Like I said, my son is a significant distance away from me. And it's like one or two streets, right, before we get to my mother's house. Now, like I said, my son is a couple feet ahead of me. And mind you, the wind's picking up, the rain's picking up, it's getting kind of dark outside, right? So I'm watching my son. He gets to the edge of the street. He waiting for me. I'm not too far behind him, but I'm enough farther ways away from him. And there's this white man in a car with tinted windows. He stops in front of my son, right? He looks at my son and then looks at me. He says, "Hey, get in. I'll get you where you need to go. Right?" So my son looks back at me, and I don't know, I kind of felt like white man face was like a little bit too eager, you know what I'm saying? Because here's the thing, right? Had I felt like I needed this man to get me where I needed to go, what would have happened was I would have told my son, go in the back, and then he would have sat in the back, and then that man could have closed the door, drove right off. Or not even gave my son, or not even closed the door, but could have just drove off and then get somewhere where he can't see me, then close the door, or someone could have been hiding in the back, whatever. But the lion dad, like the protector in me just felt some type of way. And I'm like, Cam, step back, come here. I was like, nah, we good. My mother's house right there. And then the dude was like, You sure? You sure? I'm like, yeah, we good. And then I grabbed my son, and then dude drove off, right? But I always felt like this white man could have been a kidnapper. He could have been a child smuggler, human trafficker, whatever. And this could have been the last day I ever seen my son. Simply by being lazy and taking someone's help who wasn't necessarily trying to help me. Now, I could be wrong. I could judge a book by its cover. But me knowing that I'm not racist, and I don't immediately assume somebody has ill intentions towards me or my children, I always felt like for people, for the most part, I had a good sense of discernment. I felt like this white man who, like, I know all the faces in the area where I'm walking in. This is somebody who I've never seen before. If you was a kidnapper, wouldn't one of the most perfect times to be would be to be driving around where it's getting dark outside, right? And you'll be able to be slicker with kidnapping somebody? Wouldn't it be? I'm like, mind you, I'm kind of weird, you know what I'm saying? Like one time around here, I seen like, cause see, sometimes like the older white folk, like they have like golf cart caddy kind of like things, and they kind of be driving around. One time I seen just the palest white man with a little black baby sitting on his lap, driving around the block, and I'm like, ragged? But I'm not a racist. So when I see this, I'm like, that's strange. It's strange. You know, like there's no mixed race, potentially daughter, granddaughter with him. It's just, but hey, you know what I'm saying? It could have been his grandkid, could have been his grandchild. You know, I mean, the child looked happy, the child didn't look in distress, but you know, this is little. This could have been like a 2-year-old or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So it was weird. But anyway, that's the story about how I felt like I almost got my son kidnapped. Man. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Peace.